we continue. I mean, some of these stories feel like they're several years old because they're several years old. I mean, it takes a while to do real estate projects, but I think what is pretty exciting is we saw a number of transactions downtown that are leading to redevelopment. So, you march your way up State Street, starting with the Modern Tool Square project. That transacted, and the developer is underway, and people are starting to see visible changes there. That's exciting.
What is the vision for that place? Can you share a little bit of that, or?
Well, I don't have any particular inside knowledge on
Okay.
it. The developer's a great guy who I've met with several times, and I think his vision is to stabilize the property.
It's mostly all residential. There's a few commercial properties.
I think there's
right?
about 30,000 square feet roughly of commercial, and
Okay.
70 or 80 apartments.
There's
hopefully no one will quote me. I should
Well, I
know
mean,
those
but there's
numbers,
like dentist's office. There's the
the two
restaurant.
restaurants that are there. There's a law firm there. There's some medical offices there.
Okay.
And there's some vacant space in the commercial that's, set to get redone.
Do you remember when that was like a mini mall?
Yeah.
Were you part of that? Or?
I was not. I was a kid.
I had
Joel, even you were young.
I was young. I was in my 20s. I came home and I'm like, this is amazing. I mean, really, the concept was super cool, but way before its time, huh?
Way before its time. And that developer ended up in some financial hot water, and that is how Steve McGarvey got into the real estate business. After his family sold Meadowbrook Dairy, he took his portion of the dough and bought Modern Tool Square and finished the project, and got the apartments going and changed the use from that northernmost building, which was set up as retail, became office, and was a very stable asset in Steve's portfolio, and then transacted a few times, and had some fits and starts. And I think that the gentleman and his team that purchased it, from what I can tell, they're doing really good work there. And so, we started at, and maybe we should have, as we talk about the wins of 2025, maybe we should have started a little lower. Maybe we should have started at the waterfront, and, knowing that the action around State Street and that iconic connection, reconnecting our downtown to the waterfront underway. Look, we've all been stuck in that traffic, and it's kind of a pain, but I would argue that's a win to reconnect our downtown.
It really does reflect back to what Charles Bukey said back in Erie Refocused of, having some kind of, like you say, iconic focus. We already are choosing to have the Bicentennial Tower as kind of our icon, our symbol, and now let's bring people down there. Okay, well, we're going to be jumping around a little bit. Just going to tell you. So, staying with the waterfront, what's that? What you, as you being the expert and being through so many of these projects, what would you suggest that the port and Erie Events and whoever else are the stakeholders on the water should be thinking about when it comes to redeveloping after the highway project's done, redeveloping the East Basin there, and the old McAllister space. I mean, that's prime real estate.
Yeah, it sure is, and I think that both the Port Authority and the Convention Center Authority are working very diligently at trying to imagine what can happen down there, along with the private businesses like the Scott family that are looking at the next phase of their development, and certainly the funds that are coming from the CRIS to help that along. I know that there are folks that listen and think, man, why are we subsidizing these projects? Why are we investing state dollars? The governor was here in the fall and, talked about the investment in the market for the convention center, or at the convention center.
The Market House,
site,
yeah.
The Market House. And, there's a reality, and we were chatting a minute before the show started during the news about it's tough in a market with a declining population to make real estate projects like this pencil purely from the private side. And so having co-investment from authorities and public sources can be very good for the residents to, really increase the quality of living that exists, which in theory should attract continued growth. And I think that we've hit our stride in that arena. And I think there's still folks that say, well, why would we be focused on using public dollars on the Bayfront? Haven't we been there and done that? But, I was around, as were both of you, when the fight over the Blasco Library was going on. And I think it's, sure, I loved walking to the library at what is now the federal courthouse. But I think that what's happened at Blasco is pretty impressive. And I think it's a cool site. And I think that, what it's led to with the Scott's investment and with the other authorities' continuing investment. So I'm not so bold as to say I would give, Gus or Julie advice on what they should do at those two sites, other than to say, continue doing what you're doing, which is appropriately plan, appropriately spend time thinking about what it's going to cost and the types of uses that will be best. And I think it's going to have to be a mix of uses. I think that again, I hear people say, well, all we care about is tourism or conventions, and, are we really big enough to attract those things? Well, the answer is yes. I mean, I've been to multiple conventions at our statewide conventions, and some that are more super regional in nature, and that drives dollars. And
outside dollars
that are coming into this market. And so to continue to support that, I think, is a good thing. And it is a world-class waterfront. It is really beautiful. Mm-hmm. I think when we correct the mistake of disconnecting our downtown from the water, it's going to help even more. And I think that, I think that there are a lot of opportunities on that land.
Well, developers, people that live, we can go to different places and say, okay, here's what happened in Isle of Palms. Here's what happened at Cape May or in Long Branch. Here's what happened in Newport Beach. Again, I'm really getting heady here, aren't I? But Newport Beach is very expensive. That's aspirational. Thank you. That's a very positive spin. But won't developers tell you, hey, this is the kind of thing we're looking for? If you want me to put a hotel, or if you want me to do, some kind of multi-use retail, this is what has worked in my other markets. Will they tell you that?
Oh, sure. Developers will tell you that. And I do know that the folks that we've been talking about understand the importance of talking to developers. And, we'll stay on the waterfront, but move a bit west and talk about West 8th Street and the Presque Isle Gateway project. There's exciting news to come on that. I know that the authority has publicly stated that they're in conversations with developers and hopefully set to make some announcements relatively soon. Those conversations with the developers help inform what's going to need to happen. And it could be, real estate development is incredibly complex. You've got infrastructure issues, water, sewer, utilities, that involves a number of those kinds of players. That's expensive stuff. So, when you talk to the developers and, if you're developing at Knowledge Park for Kyocera, power and gas might be more important at scale than it is to develop, 100 apartments or whatever.
Right.
It's different use cases, and talking to the developers and understanding what they're going to want to do on a site to help get that site ready becomes pretty important. And developers will tell you what they need. I think if there was one bit of advice I'd give to really, we work all over the place, and with our Executive Pulse investment, we talk to economic development folks all over the country. If there was one bit of advice I would give when talking to developers, is to understand that what a community wants isn't always necessarily completely perfectly aligned with what a developer needs. And so, that old saying about you have two ears and one mouth, you probably ought to listen a little more than you talk. I think that holds true with developers. It's not that they're know-it-alls and want to be jerks to the communities that are asking them to come in, but they do have a set of needs that, you really want to understand. And, if I were to dissect projects maybe locally, and I'm careful about not wanting to sound negative, but many years ago when the GAF site first came about, I think that the plans that were developed, and if you recall, there were a number of different local architectural firms that were involved and came up with different ideas and different plans. And those are important. They should help inform, but they shouldn't legislate, right? Like, here's what we think might work here. Mr. Developer, Mrs. Developer, what do you think will work here? And I think that sometimes if you're new to working with developers, that can be hard because you have this vision. I need 100 apartments and I need this much retail and I need this much office. Well, if that isn't going to work on that site, or if a developer doesn't think that's going to work on that site, then you might have to rethink your position. I would also say that development in general has changed. There's not a ton of developers that will do development across different sectors. So if you look at a site like GAF and you say, I want some hospitality, I want some retail, I want some office, I want some multifamily, maybe I want some condos, that's probably not a single developer.
Right.
And I think that if you've not worked in that world, it can be a little difficult sometimes to reconcile that fact. No.
But there are consultants that have worked in those worlds.
Well, yes, there are.
I'm just going to say, I mean,
not
basically,
just our firm. I mean,
but you bring in, here's the thing that's kind of driven me nuts about Erie is that sometimes we feel like we have to do something novel, something brand new. And in the same breath, we're the show me city. I want to see that it absolutely works somewhere else. And I'm thinking, you know what? Not every development in Nashville, the it city that I always bring up, worked. I remember specifically, I'm trying to remember if it was in the Metro Center area or whatever, but they built this mall that, that came up like in the mid 80s. By the end of the 80s, it was already getting decrepit. It had a movie theater and all this stuff. We used it for a film shoot. We were shooting a commercial there, and it was empty because, not everything works. My point is, though, that if a guy has done this in 5 or 6 different markets, and it's this magical mix of maybe some multifamily and some retail and some hospitality, it might, if they think they can make it work here, maybe listen to them.
Yeah, that's right. And aside from, listening to the developer, I think that's right. You should. I mean, these developers are coming in and their goal is to turn a profit. I mean, they're, so they are studying it and they are hiring consultants. I mean, you're not getting a hotel financed without a proper market analysis. It just isn't going to happen. So, Christian from California at 10th and State, that hotel deal doesn't happen unless real experts in addition to the developer say, no, this guy's plan is right. I mean, this is what it's going to take to make it right.
Which is so exciting to think about.
Right. And so, the developers aren't coming in just willy-nilly. They're going to focus. But the challenge that we have throughout the Northeast, it's not just in Erie, and I've said this a million times on this show, we are not alone in the fact that there is often public support necessary to catalyze the type of change that we all want to see. And that isn't always popular. And I think that we as a community have gotten much better at analyzing these deals, evaluating the folks that are bringing the deals to confirm if they're, going to be a good fit for our community.
For a public-private partnership or what have you. All right, we've got to take a break here. We have our guy, Chuck Peters, is with us here. Stay with us. It's more ahead on Talk Erie. Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. Chuck Peters is with us. Chuck, I just got like 4 minutes before the news here, and I want to ask you again. We've been talking about the waterfront. You mentioned the gateway. Again, people hear about things. They get kind of antsy for announcements. I know it takes a while to get especially something that's kind of politically charged as that area. It shouldn't be, because we've seen what could happen. Like if we dare to dream, and you think about what they did at the West Erie Plaza. I mean, who would have thought you could come up with something really gorgeous like that out of a 1958 plaza? And you think about what they've done at Colony, which is, again, those really cool galleries and boutiques and shops. I mean, that's kind of, we can dream that the Gateway could be that cool, right? I mean,
well, certainly, I think it can enhance both of those other projects. I think that, it's like if you talk to most of the restaurant owners downtown or the bar owners downtown, the entertainment venues downtown, they like density of similar things because it draws people in. And I think that the Gateway project is going to do that. It's going to enhance what the West Erie Plaza has done. It's going to enhance what the Colony Plaza has done. I think you're going to, in 10 to 15 years, people aren't going to recognize it. Right. It's going to feel very, very different.
Well, that's what we were told.
Positively different.
Yeah, we were told that about Fifth Street. Like, in 3 years, you won't recognize Fifth Street. And you know what? We don't recognize Fifth Street, and it's not even done yet. Let's get a quick phone call. I've got about 30 seconds, caller, but go ahead.
Hey, just about that Bayfront or West 8th Street Gateway. I started hearing that people are trying to rationalize that we'd never make the investment back on the tax base because they overspent on the project itself already, just the demolition and the purchase. Has anybody come up with real numbers on the rationale for overspending, not even negotiating for the properties themselves?
I'll let our guest answer that as best he can. Thanks so much for the call. Again, the numbers I'm hearing is it costs $7 million. We're looking at a $50 million project. Is that close?
Yeah, a couple of quick things. So, for the caller's benefit, the $7 or so million that was paid was slightly above the assessed value, and there's been a lot of debate over, assessed value versus appraised value, and they are two very different things. But the narrative that the authority overpaid, I think, is a little overblown. The reality is that there was a lot of real estate to assemble. Now that it's assembled, the sum of the parts are greater than sitting individually with buildings that, although maybe not all of them met the technical definition of blight, I assure you, were well on their way.
Yeah.
And I think in the long run, the $50 million investment is going to help a lot.
Yeah, it'll turn it around. All right, we got more with Chuck Peters. Stay with us. It's Talk Erie. getting the lay of the land in 2025 and moving into 2026 with our expert for commercial real estate, Chuck Peters, the managing partner at Altair Real Estate. All right. I said I was going to be jumping around, and that we do need to, because it took us a half an hour and we're still by the water. So we need to move around here. I want you to talk about, again, because you taught me everything I know about Class A real estate. You really did. And, you know, we've got the EDDC putting up, 35,000 square feet, I think it is, at the Flagship Commons. What else? Are there any other active Class A projects out there? I mean, you built Class A out at Knowledge Park, right, back in the day, and that's still kind of going, right? I mean,
yeah.
But those are build-to-suit deals.
Yeah, we've talked about this sort of definitionally. What does it mean to be Class A? And there really is not a real definition. So, it's generally understood that it's a building, taller than 4 stories and newer than 10 years. So by that definition, right now there is one Class A office building in Erie, Pennsylvania, and it's Erie Insurance's new headquarters. That to the sort of, again, there's not a hard and fast definition. You can go look it up and you'll find dozens of different ways of looking at Class A. But in this market, clearly the Erie Insurance headquarters is 100% a Class A office building by almost anyone's standards. Right. In terms of speculative new build Class A, no, there's nothing going other than what the EDDC is doing, and I think that the office is about 20,000 feet.
Is that? Okay.
And then the rest is made up of other things, and I think that's super exciting that that's happening. I think that developers are always thinking about, what could I do here or there or the other place.
Doesn't the rent indicate what's Class A? I mean, if people are willing to pay $35 a foot or whatever it is, not really.
Not really.
I guess it doesn't matter.
Because the rate is, very dependent upon where you're at too. So Class A in Austin is going to be different than Class A in Manhattan. Right. So in terms of the price per square foot, although it might cost the same to build it in both locations, which brings us back to sometimes needing to make up gaps through gap financing. But
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to finish on that Class A. So by sort of a generally understood definition, Erie Insurance meets that criteria. But if you look at what Federal Resources did at the Mercantile Building, which I think, might be one of the larger, office deals of the year in downtown, that took a 9,000, 10,000 square foot floor plate and turned it into exceptionally attractive office. I mean, what the team at Federal Resources did is spectacular. It looks great. Does it meet the standard of traditional Class A? No, I guess not. But it is some of the nicest office space that I've seen. And when you walk in there, you feel a bit transported.
Neat.
Yeah. So
So when if I'm coming in, I've got 30 employees or whatever, and I'm looking around, what do you got?
Yeah, so let's work our way up State Street. I think your first question was, how did 2025 go? And I'll move a little more quickly, but it went pretty well. There were some transactions, right? Modern Tool Guy is getting redone. You work your way up State Street. The EDDC completing where Dave's Diner is and the wraparound building and getting those things online. That's pretty exciting. That was in 2025. You look at 801 State Street, which is the former Key Bank building, and that building transacted prior to 2025. It transacted in 2024, but in 2025, the redevelopment of that building got underway. The second floor is fully leased. A division of Penn Northwest Clarion University is taking the entire second floor, and the first floor has a lease with the federal government. That's, the redevelopment of that's getting underway. So that's exciting. We keep moving up State Street. Gannon made a decision that 900 State was no longer critical to their operation, and have worked out a deal with a developer to start redeveloping that. And the first tenant moved into that building on the 22nd of December.
Wow.
And is taking the entire third floor. I think they're already moved in, the Palace Business Centers. So that's good. 913, 915 State, the Palace Hardware Building. The developers got plans for that and is thinking through what to do. Cross State Street, we get to the Avalon, the former Avalon, and the Good Homes folks, converting that hotel into 197 workforce apartments. That's underway. The last I knew, something like 40 or 50 of those units were leased. Keep working our way up. We've got, what was done at the Five Iron Building, again, prior to 2025, but, recent 2024, and then 1001 State, the Renaissance Center with its, that's a long project.
What's it called again? The Trust, right?
The Trust, yeah.
That is so cool.
It's a really cool building, and it's a really cool project and a really great team. There's a bunch of people working on that project.
Will that be going to construction this year?
It will.
Okay.
Yeah, it will. The building's almost empty. Tenants are almost all completely relocated. There's a few that still need to find homes, and we're working with them to do that. Keep going. Right next door.
Well, can I just pause at that building? Because, again, if you've ever done a tour of that, there's certain places that you could see the original drawings and things. I mean, it's a phenomenal building. Again, it was our largest building ever in Erie as far as height goes. And what's that like to convert from offices to a hotel? That's a lot of plumbing, isn't it, Chuck?
It is a lot of plumbing. Each hotel room needs a bathroom.
Right.
That's where you start spending some real money.
Yes.
So first of all, that building lays out almost perfectly for a hotel. So it was, designed sort of as a stubby U with an east and a west bump out, where the elevators are on one side, mechanicals and things are on the other side. And it allows natural light on all four sides of the building, which is super important. Before you started this show, you were talking about conversion of office, and maybe we'll come back to that after we finish out talking about 2025. But it lays out really well as a hotel conversion. It would have also laid out really well as an apartment conversion. I think the best and highest use is what the developer is doing there. But we keep moving south upstate, and smaller developers, what we all predict will happen, that if the flywheel gets moving, action will start to take place. The developer that owns, I'm going to miss the name, but the pub, bar, whatever, that's just south of the Renaissance Center. There's been a dumpster out front for a number of months. They're converting he went and expanded, bought the other side of the building.
Oh my.
He's putting a new concept in there. So that's happening. That's exciting. We keep marching up. Obviously, we all know what happened at the corner at 1128 State. That's great pre-2025, but that helps what happened in 2025. Young developers Sean and Kenya Johnson and what they're doing at 12 in between 12th and 13th on State with buying that former Sanders building.
Yes.
That development's going to get underway.
Interesting.
1402 State, the juniors building, just transacted last week. Can't talk about the details of that, but the group that bought it is...
You're talking about Keller's got sold?
The building.
The building got sold. Okay.
The building. Keller's did not ever.
Okay.
They never owned the building.
They never owned the building. Yeah.
Junior retained the building after he
Gotcha.
sold the business. But that building just transacted maybe yesterday or the day before.
Oh,
it went
wow.
through the daily record. The developer business folks that got that building, I had a chance to chat with them, and they're doing it because of the action that's going on from the waterfront all the way to where PACA is on State Street. And just like we've talked about with Buffalo, when we had Canal Side, Pagulaville, where the hockey arena is, and the medical campus, the soft middle starts to fill in.
Right.
We've talked about this for years. It's happening. It doesn't happen as fast as any of us would like, and it's not without bumps in the road, but it's happening.
Amazing. The when you talk about that flywheel, for years and years and years, the capital thing has been the issue. And my understanding is like Christian from California, he hasn't stopped just with the Renaissance, with the brick or the trust. He's really interested in Erie.
That's correct.
Like, how do you get that bug? I mean, obviously he's having a good experience, right?
He's having a great experience, yeah. And I think that, if you look at the stated goals of the EDDC or the Over the Rhine project in Cincinnati, which the EDDC was modeled after, the idea was to shock the market, wake it up, and I think that the EDDC did that successfully, and that has led to others seeing that. I think if I of course have occasion to talk to Christian somewhat frequently, and I think
have him come by sometime.
Glad to do it. He's shy.
Okay. Well, we did chat with him at
Erie
Homecoming a couple of years ago, and he was fabulous. Yeah.
I think that he would tell you, when you come to town as an outsider and you look at the investment that's been made at the waterfront, and if you look in particular at things that hotel developers, office developers, apartment developers would refer to as demand generators. So our universities, Knowledge Park at Penn State, if you look at the jobs that are there and how they are fueling what, economic stability that we have, a company like Erie Insurance, an organization like EDDC, it's hard to not get a little excited. And I think that there's value to be created when you come to a place like Erie that's got some momentum, but maybe the rest of the outside world hasn't figured that out yet. Again, I am not looking at this with rose-colored glasses. I say it all the time. We need to stop population decline. We at least need to stabilize. There's lots of things that we do need to focus on as a community. Big issues, like our infrastructure, which is aging, like our education system. All those things are important. I don't want anyone to listen to this and think this dude's got his head in the sand. I don't. I understand the challenges, but you know what? Those same challenges exist in the fast-growing communities, and sometimes in a bigger way.
Yeah. What's interesting, again, you're very aware of Nashville. They have built, new multifamily. They've built new commercial real estate, new development in places that you would never want to walk through or go to 40, 30, 20 years ago. What was not even a blank canvas, but a dirty canvas. They said, well, you know what? We can clean up in the Gulch and
I was just
build.
Gonna say the Gulch is the prime example.
In my era, East Nashville was underdeveloped and underinvested in. It was the Cumberland was a red line, and then they decide, we could build a stadium there. And then all the ancillaries come with it. Now all of a sudden, all the bridesmaids want to go to Nashville.
Well,
that's a little side thing there.
When I was going there all the time, I think I would make it to 2nd and Broadway every 4th trip for one night or something. But yeah, it gets a little much. What's happened when you talk about East Nashville or the Gulch and the fact that that's that they've filled in and become more successful. I've talked about that with Buffalo in particular, because I'm very fond of Buffalo and the way they went about it. But what you start to see then is not only does the soft middle fill in, which is what we're kind of experiencing now on State Street. And I get it. We still have a long ways to go, but it's starting to happen. What you also start to see is if you look at the other direction, 10th Street, where it intersects with State Street, and you look at that significant investment that Velocity Network made, supporting the town that has supported them with the investment in that building, which made others put more money into their buildings on West 10th Street.
On 10th, yeah.
All of a sudden, West 10th Street looks much nicer. Then you look at what outside investment comes, like Kate and Co. with the building at 11th Street that's getting redone sort of in the backyard of Velocity Net, in a building that was largely forgotten. It was kind of the only building in the city that did not have Main Street frontage. It was at Commerce Street and whatever the other alley is, and then they knocked the old credit bureau down so that they will have 11th Street frontage. That is tremendous. If you look at what I don't talk about our little building on East 10th Street, but seeing all of this prompts business owners. When you hear more about 1402 State, the Keller's building, and the folks that bought it and what's going to happen there, it's a similar story. It's a couple of business folks that said, you know what, time to make our mark. Federal resources we already talked about. Yeah. So you start to see how it all fills in. And then the exciting thing is stuff like Mike Motashewski bringing, Otis down
to the EMT. Wow.
And just all of that other kind of infill development. So bring it. We need more. If you're an entrepreneur thinking about doing something, it's a good time, and you should probably talk to our fine economic development folks. If you're
I'm glad you. There's a good segue because we just have a couple more minutes with Chuck Peters here. Ironworks Square, 12th Street. Again, Pete Zaffris. The big bets on the old Union Bank, the old General Tire. I mean, they're gorgeous buildings. And then you go down the street and you have the EMI, which I guess is coming online this year.
Pete Z rocking and rolling. I mean, you look at what he and his family have done to invest, and that is a great model. Also, if you're a successful business owner in town and you want to learn about investing in real estate, there's a guy you could talk to about, diversifying and making an investment in his town.
You've got to remember Rick Griffith, who did it.
Tons. Yeah. I mean,
before that,
there are so many that have made those decisions. And then, but yeah, Pete's continuing with growth. You mentioned Rick, his daughter has kept that family's legacy going and is an amazing real estate operator. There are a lot of people that are investing time, effort, and money into making this a better place, and we need more. The more at the party, the better. 12th Street, yes.
12th Street,
great project. We need to see that project get done. You see people working there almost every day. Super exciting.
I guess half of it's rented already.
That's what I've heard. Our mutual friend won't give me the skinny on who it is, but I'm a pretty good detective. I have a few ideas.
Can we talk, while we have you, can we talk about the county a little bit? Again, we mentioned Mill Creek and the Gateway. The kind of the narrative is that Mill Creek's built out, but there's infilling and there's opportunity there. Certainly, Kmart is an opportunity. We could talk about Harbor Creek, where they got the Kmart guy to tear it down so that new development can happen. They're getting their Wingstop, which is now the hot restaurant. We're getting a couple of those. Everybody's excited about that. What do you see in the outlying areas in the suburbs and so on? Fairview and
Harbor
so on.
Creek's hot.
Harbor Creek.
I mean, Harbor Creek is scorching hot. If you look at what's gone on at Knowledge Park in the last few years with Trucklight and Kyocera, scorching hot. And the reason, by the way, is not because the buildings are cool or the dirt's nicer or whatever. It's because of the proximity to a super educated workforce coming out of Penn State Barron.
It's all about the workforce.
It is all. Yeah, I try to tell people all the time, buildings are great and you need nice buildings to house your folks. But ultimately, it is a people business. Real estate is a people business, but Harbor Creek's scorching hot. Again, the flywheel's moving. There's development that's been happening there for decades, and the momentum is moving in a direction that sort of shouts out success for the future. I would also say, and I lived in Harbor Creek almost all of my life. I recently moved to Mill Creek. Harbor Creek did get some things right that other outlying municipalities didn't. Harbor Creek stuck to its guns on certain zoning and planning issues, and to keep traffic at bay. Mm-hmm. They thought very seriously about that. No one in office today, and in Mill Creek or Summit were around when kind of the crazy was going on of that development. But we have Generica on Peach Street. Welcome to Generica. Everything that you can get in every other town is there, including the inability to walk to any of the businesses or ride your bike to any of the businesses, which no matter how much my buddy Dean Pepicello argues with me, alternative forms of transportation are important and going to become more important. So Harbor Creek's poised really well for that. I think Mill Creek, my new hometown, has its work cut out for it. It's a big place. It's one of the largest municipalities in the Commonwealth. And, there's going to be work to do to keep things moving. And I think that sticking to their guns about, affecting change is going to be important to the community. Fairview, Girard, Lake City, Northeast, there's talk now about what's going on in Northeast
stuff. Wow.
And so it'll be interesting to see how all of that shakes out. But, in general, I think 2025 was a pretty decent year. I think that we have a lot of action coming in 2026, and I'll look forward to talking more about that.
We'll have ribbon cuttings galore. Chuck Peters, thank you so much. Managing partner of Altair Real Estate. Appreciate your time.
Thank you both
and your expertise. Back in a bit here.